I did follow my dream. I became a labor and delivery nurse for about 11 years. And then I really wanted to pursue my dream of being a surrogate.
Explain your first one, because obviously it was your first. Were you nervous at all?
I was really nervous going into it, but I ended up having beautiful pregnancies with my surrogate babies.
Okay, explain the job of this. Can you make enough money doing this that this is a full-time job?
For first timers now, around 60,000. Repeat surrogates, it could be 60 to 100. No matter what you get as far as a compensation, all these things are covered by the intended parents. There's certain criteria that they look for to make sure that you are healthy enough and able to carry a child for somebody. My heart was always just in a really good place when it came to wanting to help other people. And for me, I knew it was going to revolve around being pregnant and maybe helping somebody create a family.
And have you come across some horror stories?
Today on Misunderstood, we're talking to someone who did something extraordinary. Christina Bramante became a surrogate. For most people, surrogacy brings up a lot of questions. Why would someone choose to carry a baby for someone else? How does it work emotionally, legally, physically? What does it mean for the surrogate's own family and the one she's helping create? These are the questions people ask out loud, but underneath them is a deeper curiosity about purpose, identity, and the meaning of motherhood. Today, we get to the mission behind it all, why Christina said yes to being a surrogate numerous times, and we uncover what is so often misunderstood about this deeply human, deeply generous journey. Please enjoy my conversation with Christina. Christina, thank you so much for joining me today on Misunderstood. I'm really excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I would like to know about you first. Can you tell me where you were born, what kind of family you grew up in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Illinois. I'm the oldest of 4 girls in my family. And from a really young age, I've always been interested in babies and seeing my mom pregnant with my sisters. And as I grew older and my mom was pregnant with my youngest sister, I was 12 and a half. And I was just fascinated by the whole thing. So from a very young age, I actually wanted to be a labor and delivery nurse as my career when I got older. And not many kids really know from a young age, what they want to do, but that was always my dream. So I have my 3 little sisters. I got to watch the birth of my youngest sister. And at that point, I just knew right away, what I wanted to do. I'm married to my husband, Robert. We have 4 of our own children together. I had beautiful pregnancies and beautiful births with my own children. And, from a really young age, even before my own kids were born, I did follow my dream. I became a labor and delivery nurse. So I did that for about 11 years. And then I had my first baby. And from there, I knew I wanted a large family. So we ended up having 3 more. And then I really wanted to pursue my dream of being a surrogate. And I think that really just stems from having my own little sisters, watching my mom being pregnant and then going through my own experiences as a labor and delivery nurse, seeing all the heartache that's out there, surrounding pregnancy, trying to conceive, some, bad birth experiences and, the whole scenario. So my heart was always just in a really good place when it came to wanting to help other people in a way that I felt I could do that. And for me, I knew it was going to revolve around being pregnant and maybe helping somebody create a family. Wow.
Okay. So how does that work? The first time you decided to do that, is there a course you have to go in, or did somebody come up to you and say, listen, you've had a bunch of babies. You obviously know what you're doing. Can you have mine? How did that progress?
So it's really interesting because the timing of me looking into surrogacy for the first time, my husband always heard me talk about it, but he was like, wait a minute, you really actually want to do this? And I was like, absolutely. I knew nothing about it. I knew nobody that has done it before. I didn't even know at the time that it was illegal in the state of New York. So this was the fall of 2021. So it was still COVID time. So it gave me a lot of time to do some research online. And I happened to join a Facebook group that I found, and it actually was a New York surrogacy Facebook group. So I quickly learned right away on that group that the law was actually going to be passed that coming February. So the law was not even passed yet. But I figured if I had started the process, I could be ready to go by the time, the law actually passed.
Right.
So, I did a lot of research, as much research as I could. I interviewed a few agencies. I picked the one that I felt was right for me. I meshed really well with the owner of the agency, and I felt like we had a lot in common, and it just felt right to me.
And just so I know, is it like an adoption and surrogacy agency, or it's just an agency for surrogacy?
Just an agency for surrogacy.
Okay.
And because it was so new in New York, not a lot of agencies were affiliated with it yet. You have to have like special licenses and special things, to be able to be allow surrogates to carry in the state of New York.
Yeah. So wait, just pause for one second. There is an act. I think it's called the Child Parent Security Act, right?
Yes.
That was passed in 2021 in New York, making it legal. But so I didn't even know that there are certain states that it's not legal. So before that, it meant if somebody wanted to be a surrogate or use a surrogate, they had to leave the state of New York. Is that correct?
Correct. They had to hire a surrogate that was in another state that was legal, and then they would go to that state for the birth as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, and how many states is it legal in now? Do you know?
So now it's legal in all but 2 states.
Oh, what are the 2 states?
Michigan is one of them, and Nebraska is the other. And Michigan is actually recently passing the law, so that's no longer going to be a problem.
Oh, wow. Okay. So anyway, so go back to the process was it hard to get accepted by an agency?
So what they do is they have to collect all your medical records from your births and your pregnancy, and they send them to the clinic that your intended parents are working with. So they'll start matching with somebody. They'll know the clinic that they're working with. They have all your records sent over there. And then you have to be approved. So there's certain criteria that they look for to make sure that you are, healthy enough and able to carry a child for somebody. Obviously, you want somebody that's very healthy and able to have a good pregnancy, somebody that's been trying for a long time to have a family, or, you want just the best scenario. So
got it. So, and you had already had your 4 children, correct?
Correct. It is super important to be done having your own family, having it completed. You never know going into this process if you can lose your fertility. Something else can happen. You might need a hysterectomy. There's so many scenarios. I mean, pregnancy in itself is very dangerous. So you have to know going into it, what the risks are and being okay accepting those risks. And, you don't expect the worst thing to happen, but you have to be prepared in case it does.
Prepared. So that's really interesting. So you knew that you were done with your 4 kids and you did not want any others. And you're saying that's an important fact that these people carrying other people's children really need to be good with.
Absolutely. That is one of the most important things that I could stress about being a surrogate, is to make sure your own family is complete first and foremost.
Right. Did it make you nervous about carrying a child inside of you and knowing you were going to have to give it away?
Not at all. So going into it, again, you're going into this for a reason and for a purpose. If I wanted more children, I'm able to have more children. I didn't want to raise any more children.
Okay.
However, I really wanted to help somebody else be able to raise a child and have those hopes and dreams and let them have that opportunity for their child. And I just loved being pregnant. It was such a nice, fun thing for me. I'm not somebody that gets sick or has any problems. Now, of course, something could happen. But with my own pregnancies, I didn't have any of those issues. So I was willing to take those risks on. But I ended up having like beautiful pregnancies with my surrogate babies. So
how many have you done now?
I have done 2, and I'm now done.
You're not done, you said.
I am done.
Oh, you are done.
I have to let my body retire now.
Oh, got it. Okay. So, you're like a little racehorse. I love it. Okay. Wait, exactly. I'm really curious so what do you have? All girls?
I have a son, and then I have 3 daughters.
Okay. What did they think about it?
Okay. So I talked to them about this for so long. Like the second I wanted to, become a surrogate, I had these conversations with them, and the older 2 were a little older. So they understood off the bat. The younger 2, I had to do a little bit more explaining about, what was going to happen. Telling them it's not our baby. It's not your sibling. It's not mommy's egg. It's not daddy's sperm. Like, we're not making a baby together, that this is going to be somebody else's baby. I gave him a whole cookie analogy, basically saying, like, if we bake cookies at our house and we go to turn our oven on and it's not working anymore, like, we want to ask our neighbor, hey, can we just borrow your oven, make these cookies? When the cookies are done, even though they baked in their oven, whose cookies are they?
Great.
I helped that to them. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
And they were fine. They were fine the whole pregnancy. They loved on my belly, loved the baby, talked to the babies. Yeah, and then there was no problem at the end, and the baby went to the families.
I love it. Okay, so let's go back to the surrogacy clinic, I guess it's called. How do they pair you then with the right family?
So what's important is you give all of your most important criteria that you're looking for and the type of family that you're looking for. And things are just really, really important to you as far as your pregnancy goes. Are you okay with me getting my nails done? Are you okay with me getting my hair, done? From little things like that to the bigger things, such as do you leave termination rights up to the parents? It's my body. Especially in New York with the laws and they did a fabulous job really taking care of the surrogates because it is our body and our health and everything comes first. But there's certain things that you have to come to agreement with, like I said, as such as termination. It's something I never had to think about in my own pregnancies, but now here I am going to be pregnant with somebody else's baby. And if something's wrong, I have to be okay with that decision.
Wow. Okay. So what is the decision? Is it up to you? Is it up to, it is your body. So how does that work? Is it a law or it's a choice?
It is ultimately the surrogate's choice being the body, but that's why it's important to kind of have an agreement on what you are comfortable doing before you even match with somebody. There's some really religious people or people that have certain views on, termination and they don't want to, no matter what the circumstance is. You wouldn't want to match with somebody like that if your intended parents are people who are like, no, like if everything's not absolutely perfect, I don't, want to continue the pregnancy.
What is the law right now in New York? I don't even know what's going on with abortions and all that.
Abortion is legal in New York.
It is. Okay.
Yes. And it's very much in New York up to the pregnant person, to make those decisions in the end.
Got it. Okay. So how many times were you paired with somebody to do like an interview and it didn't work out, or how does that work?
I happened to match with both of my intended parents in the first interview and it worked out beautifully. It was like a date and we both agreed that we wanted to move forward with each other and we did. And they're both really wonderful experiences and we've become really good friends and basically family at this point.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, explain your first one, because obviously it was your first. Were you nervous at all?
I was really nervous going into it. But as the conversation just kind of flowed and we really just connected, it became such a natural conversation that it felt right.
Okay. And so how does it work? You have to go in to the doctor's office and like, what are the tangible things that happen?
Yeah. So once you are matched, your records are sent over to the clinic to make sure that you're approved. And then from there, once you're approved, you can start the whole legal process. And that can take, a couple of weeks to a couple of months, because again, you have to lay out every single little, nook and cranny that you can think of. So that could take a little bit of time. But after you are completed with legal and you have everything set in place, then you can work with the clinic on getting that transfer calendar and like a timeline of when they plan to do the transfer.
And is it just one and done? Like, how does all that work?
So they'll do the transfer, and usually in the contract, it'll say a limit of how many you're willing to try at a time. So usually it's like up to 3 times, or a certain time period will pass, 3 times in 18 months, or if 18 months passes, you have to kind of renew it if you want to, type of thing. So,
and had you ever gone through anything, like were all your births natural before? And was this the first time?
All of my pregnancies were natural. So this is my first time going through IVF.
Okay.
Taking, medications. With my first journey, I did a whole medication protocol. That's a very common thing, that they put you on different medications. And then basically it's like 3 weeks of medications that they change them up a little bit. You're on estrogen, progesterone, like different medications. And then the first transfer did take on the first attempt. And
do they only put one in at a time, or is there a chance there could be twins?
They should only put one in at a time, and that's all I agreed to. Okay. I think it's really important to only do one at a time. The more you put in, you have more chances, obviously, of anywhere from 1 to 4 babies. I mean, if that embryo splits and then that one split, it could happen. You put twins in, you put two embryos in, they both split, you're up to 4 babies right there. Wow. And it happens. It's really scary and that's really dangerous. So I would only agree to one. I think it's really important to only agree to one. But some people do the whole twin thing. So
right. Okay. So it took the first time. That's exciting. And then what is the interaction between you and the family for the 9 months?
So that's another matching point when you meet with somebody to see if you're a good fit. I was up to letting them be as involved as they wanted to be. I said, you're welcome to come to all my appointments. You're welcome to text me or call me whenever you want to check on, me, the baby, like whatever you want. So that family came to a few appointments, whatever they could come to. Usually it was like the more important scans, the bigger ones, the more fun ones. So, we got together then and we would text basically like weekly, just checking in. Nobody was ever overbearing, to me. So it was really nice that they trusted me. They knew I had my own 4 pregnancies and 4 kids that I take care of. So they knew that I knew what I was doing. They love the fact that I had a background in being a labor and delivery nurse. I was also a doula for a while. So I know, I know what's going on. And trust is huge in this process. So yeah, they gave me my space and they let me do what I need to do. But these are things we all spoke about too when we were matching,
Right.
How involved do you want to be? What kind of relationship do you want to have? Is this just a transactional thing, or are we going to have a relationship at some point? Are we going to keep in touch afterwards? Like all those things.
And were they there for the birth?
Yes, they were there for the birth. Yeah.
And was your husband also in the room at the birth?
Yes, my husband and them. Yeah.
Oh. So what was it like? Can you tell me about your 2 births?
Yeah, sure. So the first one, I actually I live in Long Island, and I relocated to the city where they live. That was something that I chose to do, and that's not very common. Some people might not even recommend it, but for me, it was local enough where I felt comfortable doing it. It's really important to know that the surrogate is in charge of selecting her own OB or care provider. So wherever you decide to deliver, that's up to the surrogate. They do prefer having the hospital have a level 3 or 4 NICU in case something's wrong with the baby and it needs advanced medical care. So most surrogates will deliver at like a level 3 or 4 NICU hospital. So I did pick my OB in the city, in the hospital that I was delivering at, and I was very, happy with my choice. And so basically at 38 weeks, because I don't usually go before 39 to 40 weeks when I deliver, I relocated to the city and I stayed there until I went into labor.
Okay. And was it a C-section or
it was a natural vaginal birth. I'm somebody that doesn't have medications. I don't like to have interventions or induction or any pain medications. So,
oh my God.
So when the time was right, you let them know, and we all came in together, and it was pretty quick.
Well, Christina, you're a real hero there, because I've had a child, just one, and that was enough for me. That was very painful. And I had it at a teaching hospital. I was at UCSF when I had her. And, I have a funny story where, I have all these like kids running in and out. And the guy that comes to give me my epidural shows up, and I thought he was about 12. And I was like, you're not doing this. This is not happening. And so he's like, okay, well, if you want my boss, he's like off right now or whatever. Anyways, something happened where the time got too long and he didn't come back in. And all of a sudden I started to have really bad contractions. So I should have gone with the 12-year-old. And I will tell you, I didn't have contractions for that long because they were able to finally give me that epidural. They're terrible. So and it's so unexplainable. And it's so funny because you know how you have all these pregnant women that are at the last, month maybe, and they always think they're going to labor. They're like, I think this might be it. And I always say, no. You will know when it is it, because you cannot breathe. It's a different type of pain that you can't explain. You know what I mean? And I remember I was crying, but I wasn't. It was like my body was crying. I wasn't crying. Do you know what I mean? So I think you're amazing and a hero that you do it without any medication. So you had 4, so you obviously knew what to expect. Was there anything different about the 2 times that were not your child?
Nothing at all. I mean, I'm very lucky to be able to say that I went on to have 2 perfect pregnancies with both of these babies. The births were just absolutely beautiful. In some ways they're more beautiful than my own, just because I got to witness firsthand, a family being made for the first time. Which is
oh God. And were they were they crying?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's just like, it's so beautiful. I can't even explain it.
Oh, well, tell me what that was like. Bring us into the room with you kind of.
Okay. So they got to watch the entire birth. I was actually willing to let them even help with the birth if they wanted to. The second one went really pretty fast, so we actually weren't really prepared for it. The baby came too fast before the gloves were even on for anybody. So it's kind of chaotic, but still really cool. So sat back in the bed. I had to hold the baby first just because the baby is still connected to me. And if the cord's not long enough, you can't really like hand off a baby yet until the cord is done pulsating. That was really important to the parents and so important for the baby. That way the baby gets all the extra blood that's still in the umbilical cord. That's their blood.
Mm.
So, it's just a quick few minutes. And then literally dad cut the cord and the baby went right to them. And they did skin to skin on the couch and just held and snuggled and loved on that baby so much. And I got to just sit there and watch it. And it's such an incredible experience. Unless you've done it, you can't even explain like how, surreal that moment is.
Right. And I can imagine that friendship and that bond you must have with those parents, because they are in your life for these couple months that just are so important to them, and being in that room with you, they'll never forget that. I mean, that's got to be so beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Oh. So from that moment on, is your job done? Like, what do you do with your milk?
Yeah. So that's a crazy moment actually, because it's like you have all these, 10 months to a year planning and prepping and medications and pregnancy and all these appointments, and everything kind of revolves around the surrogate for a really long time. And all of a sudden you give birth and it's just like everything ends, So that's kind of like a downer time for a surrogate. Completely natural. You're still going to have all these hormones that kind of crash, postpartum, and it has nothing, this is important to stress, it has nothing to do with wanting the baby or missing the baby. It's just kind of like the finality of everything just kind of come to an end, like very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, everything just kind of like stops. So I did have like a day and a half in the hospital to bond with the parents and the baby. They were so good about letting me have that closure, which was so nice of them to let me talk to the baby, hold the baby, have alone time with the baby, like see who I carried and who I grew. And, that was really a beautiful thing I got to do with both of these babies, actually, before they went home with their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards, yes, I'm pumping currently for this baby. I pumped for about 4 to 5 months for the last baby. I never pumped with my own. I breastfed them. So this was a completely different experience that I actually was not as prepared for. Pumping is very, very difficult, especially when you don't have the baby around and you don't have like certain signals and clues. And, it's just literally hooking yourself up to a pump several times a day and waking up overnight. And, that in itself is it's a very hard job. So I do give credit to anybody who's out there pumping, moms at work, whoever. So I've been doing that.
So they don't have you breastfeed even for that day in the hospital?
So for my first journey, I did not.
Okay.
Or I just started pumping right away. In the beginning, it's hard because colostrum's thick and you don't get a lot. So you kind of have to wait until that milk really comes in. This journey, these parents were all for me actually breastfeeding in the hospital. They thought it was better for the baby. It was easier for me, much easier for me. My milk came in so much faster. So I actually did breastfeed this baby for the day and a half, 2 days that I was there.
Right.
This episode of Misunderstood is brought to you by Happy Mammoth. Because let's be real, hormones are running the show more than we'd like to admit. Whether it's trouble sleeping, bloating, brain fog, or just feeling off, Happy Mammoth is here to help rebalance your body naturally. Their best-selling Hormone Harmony is formulated for women 40 plus who are dealing with perimenopause, menopause, and just hormonal chaos. It's all natural, created by health professionals, and full of ingredients your body will actually recognize. Now, if you know me, you know I'm not about fluff. I started using Hormone Harmony and I noticed a difference. Less bloating, better sleep, and a lot less "why am I crying at this dog" commercial moments. My body needed a reset and this helped me feel like myself again. So if your hormones are throwing a tantrum, it might be time to call in Happy Mammoth. Visit happymammoth.com and use code UNDERSTOOD for 15% off your first order. That's happymammoth.com with using code UNDERSTOOD for 15% off. Take care of your hormones because they're definitely taking care of you.
So I have a question. Now, this is going to be totally ignorant because I know the answer, but I need to ask it for people that are listening also. There's no characteristics of you that come out at all in this baby, correct?
Correct. Absolutely not. There's nothing about this baby that's mine at all. This is not my egg. This is not my husband's sperm. There's nothing at all related to us.
But what about, the time that it's been in you and all the things that it's eaten because of you, or the experiences of being in you and the things that you've experienced that has no effect on the baby?
I mean, we don't know for 100% certain, what a newborn comes out thinking or feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But in both of these situations, especially now that my first surrogate baby is, basically 3 years old, she's perfectly happy with her family. You would never know that there's, I don't think there's anything in her that misses me or knows me or, there's nothing like that. These parents, they take their baby and they do anything that a normal parent would do when they have a baby, and they love on that baby and they make it their, it's their own baby, and they make it their own with their family and, their experiences.
Right. Now I've got to ask, how does your husband feel about all this? I mean, it seems like you've been pregnant for a long time while you guys have been married. Is he happy for it to be over? Did it affect your marriage at all?
It did not affect our marriage, because I literally spoke about this for many, many years. Like, I mean, we were literally dating when I said, I want 4 kids one day and I would love to be pregnant for somebody else. The 4-kid thing, he was like, okay, like maybe 2, maybe we'll compromise on 3, it's one of those things. And I was like, no, I still want 1 more, So he always kind of like joked around and said like, okay, I said 3, but we compromised on 4.
Mm.
And then it was time for me to actually want to pursue surrogacy. And like, he literally heard me talk about it. But when it actually came time, he literally looked at me one day and he's like, wait, like, you're really serious about this? He thought it was crazy. He's like, I thought it was just like something like in your head. And I was like, no, like, I really want to do this. No, my husband is so fantastic. He helped me do the research. He helped me look into, he wanted to make sure that I was safe first and foremost. His main concerns were about me and my health and my safety, and the fact that we have 4 kids, and he didn't want anything to happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was scary for him, but he was absolutely 100% on board. That's super important to have your partner on board. You need that support. You can't do this without support. If you were on bed rest, if you had complications, like, you need to know 100% that your partner is there for you.
Right.
And they're a big part of this process. They have to go through blood work. They have to go through interviews, psychological evaluations. They're a big part of it. So,
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So my husband.
And does it ever affect the partner or the husband or the wife or whatever, to watch their spouse have to give away a child, even though you didn't want to raise another one? I mean, it's got to be emotional in some way.
No, we laugh because we're like, we that's the time like he looked forward to. He's like, okay, we're not bringing any babies home. We're done. Here you go. Like, have your baby. Now you get to like do the wake ups at night and all that,
Got it.
So no, he gets emotional for me. Like, he was, he knows it's a hard time just postpartum for me to, at that point, basically for like 2 weeks. It's just the normal postpartum, your hormones literally just drop. So not even just surrogacy related, like with my own kids, like all of a sudden you just start crying for no reason. You're like, and they're laughing. Like, why am I crying? Like, I'm just, so you still go through all that. And it's so important. Like, he was always there for me. He's literally my rock, my support. He got me through my labors and my births, and he's always been there for me. And, he always reminds me that this too shall pass. And sure enough, it does. A few days later, you're back to feeling like yourself again.
Yeah.
Minus being a little tired because, again, I'm waking up pumping overnight. But, other than that, like.
And when you pump, are you giving that milk to the family?
Yes. So I basically send it weekly. They live in the city, so it's not too far, and it's really nice. I can just ship it ground and it's there the next day. I usually give them about 250 to 300 ounces a week at this point.
Oh, wow.
They could freeze it and give it to the baby. Yeah.
And then what will your relationship be going forward? Is that something that you guys have to talk about before you even get into this relationship?
Yeah. So I knew with the first one that it would be more like just getting a couple of pictures here and there, maybe a few texts a year, basically. I can see them on Instagram, so I can kind of like, keep tabs that way too. So it's not, we have a really nice relationship, and when we do speak, it's really nice, but it's not something that we're like talking every day or every week or anything like that. It's just,
right. It's not like you're babysitting.
Correct. And I'm totally fine with that. I was going into it. I was fine with whatever they wanted for both these journeys. I'm not doing this to make a friend. I'm not doing this to be in this baby's life. I'm doing this to help create a family, bring a child into the world for a family so they can have their life. So this family I communicate a little bit more with. Of course, it's still pretty fresh. I'm not even 6 weeks out yet.
Yeah.
Because I'm still like shipping the milk and everything. We do speak more, not as much as when I was pregnant. But I see the pictures and I get to see this little guy growing, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
Right. Oh, I love that. And what sex did you have each time?
First was a girl and the second was a boy.
Oh, wow. Amazing. And can they pick? Is that how they?
You could, so the embryos are usually graded and tested to see what sex they are. So you could pick if they wanted to. Both of mine did pick, but you don't have to. You could just let the clinic pick for you and just pick a good healthy one.
Got it. Okay, explain the job of this for me though. Like, did you have a separate job while you were doing this, or can you make enough money doing this that this is a full-time job?
I mean, it depends on your financial, what you consider enough for your living circumstances. I did not go into this for money. I do not need the money. I did this really, truly for, good intentions in my heart. Now, does the money help and is the money nice? Absolutely. Everybody's comp is going to be a little bit different. That's another matching point. So you can, put a number out there, and then you basically have to find somebody that's willing to pay whatever you're looking for. So,
and is that partially set by the agency and they take a fee from that?
The agency does take a fee from whatever is agreed upon, not from the surrogate's comp, but the agency does take their own fees out of everything.
Okay.
So sorry, what was the question?
I was just asking about, if people are interested about how much you make and who pays the costs, all that kind of thing.
Yeah. So you could do it for free. You could do, absolutely for free. You would just want everything paid for as far as the pregnancy, prenatal vitamins, all your doctor, the care, the costs, the co-pays, like all that kind of stuff. No matter what you get as far as the compensation, all these things are covered by the intended parents. All the IVF medications are cash pay.
What if the surrogate doesn't have insurance?
The intended parents can get insurance for them. There's special that they can get for the surrogate. I happen to have surrogacy friendly insurance. However, that does not kick in until you are released to your OB. So everything as far as the IVF related part is all cash pay.
Okay.
And then once you're released to your OB, you can put everything through insurance.
But the family pays for everything.
The family pays for everything.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And you're called the surrogate. Do they have a name, or they're just the family?
The parents. I know I've been throwing that out. So they're the intended parents throughout the process. Yes. And then the baby's born, obviously they're the parents. So.
Okay. And can you tell me what the range is of what agencies charge for a surrogate?
So it's really not what the agency is charging. Each agency is going to have their own fee of what they charge for the agency. But as far as surrogates go, I mean, first timers are going to make less than a repeat surrogate. There's such a wide number out there that you could start, say, 30,000. I'm seeing for first timers now around 60,000. It could be more, it could be less. Repeat surrogates, it could be like 60 to 100. It all depends on the situation, the carrier, what they agree upon.
So the intended family is looking at anywhere from, let's say, 0 if they're getting a free person to 100,000 plus any additional costs.
Correct. So you have to add in legal fees. Each party gets their own lawyer. So the surrogate gets to pick her attorney, the intended parents pick their attorney. Again, that's all covered by the intended parents. The agency fees, the clinic fees. I mean, in the end, I would guess it would be like 150 to 200,000.
Okay, got it. Yeah. But obviously very worth it for a family that hasn't been able to have a.
You could try and go independently if you want to. It just might take a little bit more time to find a surrogate. There's different ways to go about it. You don't have to spend that, it doesn't have to be that much, but it is a very costly thing for somebody to have a baby this way.
And what are the laws? I mean, if somebody couldn't get, let's say you have a gay couple and they want their sister to carry the baby and they don't have to pay anyone, is that legal, or do you have to go through a certain loopholes?
The surrogate cannot use her own egg in the state of New York. That would be traditional surrogacy. So as long as they have embryos made from another person's egg that they're using, they can absolutely use their sister.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you said you're not going to do this again. Why are you retiring?
I mean, it makes me sad to have to admit this, but I've had 6 babies. Usually 6 is kind of the max at these clinics. It's just a lot on your body after, 6 pregnancies, 6 births.
Mm.
Uterus isn't, they kind of refer to it as like a used car. It doesn't get better with time. So even though my body happens to be freaking amazing and I could probably handle another pregnancy, it's just something that I really shouldn't risk again.
Mhm.
Also, I just turned 41, so my age, a little bit older now. And again, I think I'm younger and healthier than I was with some of my own kids, but not younger, but I mean, I feel younger is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, I know what you
Where,
mean.
I have more time for myself to take, good care of myself. And I mean, I would love to do it again. I would love to do a sibling journey for the baby I just had, but I just have to know that it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, are you 100% no? Or if they came back to you and said, we really want you to carry the next one?
Well, they've already come back to me.
Oh, no.
They came back to me at the end of the pregnancy being like, are you sure you don't want it? I would love to. I mean, it kills me to have to say no, but I just
Right.
I have to do what's right for my body and my health.
Well, right. Yeah. And your own children too. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, this is completely fascinating. What are you going to do now?
So I ended up working for the agency that I use for both of my journeys. And I think in the beginning I said I started this process in 2021, but it was actually 2020. Now I think of it, because like 2021 is when the law passed, and then 2022 is when I finally gave birth. So my timeline might have been off a little bit. But in 2021, while I was still when I was pregnant, I started working for the agency as a registered nurse. I review medical records that incoming surrogates, people that would want to be a surrogate, come with. We request them all, and then if I think that they're good candidates, then we could send them off to the clinic to get the final approval from their doctor, from the intended parent doctors. So I'm just a good resource when it comes to medication questions, anything throughout the pregnancy that comes up. So I work for the agency, and that's what I'm here for.
That's amazing. What a great way to continue on what you like to do and be around all those people.
I still get to be involved with it. I work from home, which is great. With my own kids, I'm available. I can, do what I need to do with them. So
that's awesome. Is there anything that comes across your desk that is always a red flag? I mean, does it matter if there's some young girl who is just doing this for money and she's banging out kids every, year and a half, or what is something that you're like, oh, this is the terrible side of this business?
Yes, unfortunately, you are going to see that. I'm not always like the typical case that you see. A lot of people do come into it for the money, rightfully so. They need it. It's life-changing for a lot of people, like truly life-changing, Again, you have to have certain criteria met. So, they can't be smoking, doing drugs. Like, you have to know that these people are still somewhat healthy going into it. But, obviously one person could be better than another as far as their health or whatever. So intended parents do sometimes go through a few just to find the one that's right for them.
And have you come across some horror stories where there are surrogates that don't want to give up the child?
I personally have not seen that. I've heard that it's happened before. There is a pre-birth order that's put in place while the surrogate's pregnant, stating that the intended parents are the legal parents as soon as this child is born. All medical care and decisions are to be made by the parents. So that's there to protect them. So hopefully
and the hospitals are all aware of that, so there's no issue.
Documents well in advance before the surrogate goes in to give birth. So unless she does something crazy and never told anybody she's in labor and went somewhere else, and horror stories happen, but that's not something that's typical, and it's not something that I typically hear or see. So
right. So just to end this, like what is something that you want people to know about this business or about being a surrogate that we wouldn't know that's so important?
I think that going into it with the right intentions, I want people to know that no surrogate is going to have a hard time giving up the baby. I get that question all the time. How can you give up the baby? It's not my baby. I don't have these hopes and wishes and dreams for this child. I love the baby I'm growing. Of course. How can you not love somebody that you're growing and have that connection with? But my job is to grow a healthy baby that I can pass on to the family. And it's important for people to understand that we're not just giving away our baby. It's not like that. And this isn't an adoption scenario either. These parents have wanted a child for so long, or for them to get to this point. It's such a beautiful, beautiful process. And it should be more, well accepted. I feel like, people need to understand what surrogacy is and what it entails. And, it's not an easy job for the surrogate. And
Right.
it's got to be incredibly difficult to have somebody else carry your child. Like this is a team job. And it's a beautiful one. It's what you make of it. And it can really, truly be, a great experience for everybody.
Right. What if, God forbid, there is a miscarriage just out of the blue? How does that work?
That happens. It happens just as much as it would happen to anybody else, unfortunately. So, they would manage the miscarriage, however that looks, whether it's needing medication or a D&C or whatever. And then usually if you have more embryos, you try again.
Got it. Yeah.
And, it's only like a 50-50 shot for each time you do transfer for it to even take.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So it's not like just because you're going through IVF and have this healthy surrogate that you're just going to come out with a healthy baby right away. Like sometimes it takes many, many attempts.
Right.
This could be like some people, it could be like years long of trying to have a baby through a surrogate even.
Right. And this is a crazy question. Has there ever been a circumstance where like a couple, what are they called? Intended family? That they broke up, or all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, our family fell apart. We don't want to do this anymore. Does that ever happen?
Yeah, absolutely. That could happen. Now, if the surrogate's already pregnant, again, there's like contracts and laws in place that'll protect, the surrogate. It's not like she's going to be stuck with the baby. And also the intended parents aren't going to be paying all this money to have a baby and all of a sudden be like, no, we don't want it anymore. Like somebody's gonna have to like take the baby, so.
Right.
But yeah. And
so it's all covered in these laws and the paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my last question for you is, if somebody is listening that wants to be an intended family, wants to look into a surrogate, what are the top 3 things they should look at in a person to be a surrogate?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't want to say age because a lot of people are so focused on having like a young spring chicken as their surrogate. You want somebody that's going to really know 100% that their family is complete, because a lot of people will say that it is and all of a sudden decide that they're not. And like, that's such a scary thing, for me to see people that want kids after surrogacy, just because again, you don't know that you can't anymore. So I think somebody that responsibility is like a huge thing. You want somebody who's going to be responsible, going to their appointments, keeping you informed. Good communication. That's another huge thing that I think is so important during this process. Being truthful, being honest, being transparent about everything. These are just things that I would look for if I was looking for a surrogate. Somebody who's healthy. I want somebody that would, work out, because all these things, like you said before, do affect the growing baby. So I want to know that baby's getting good nutrition, some exercise, and just people that are going to surround this pregnancy with like love and joy, and making sure that the surrogate's happy and smiling and just, having those good endorphins around.
Yeah. That's great. Great advice. All right. Well, Christina, thank you so much. This has been a totally enlightening conversation. If anybody is interested in asking you questions, can they reach out to you on DM? Where can they find you?
Absolutely. I think my handle is going to be recorded on here. It's my New York Belly Buddy with a little underscore between each word. And yeah, I'd be happy for you to follow me. So
awesome. I wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to Misunderstood. I'm your host, Rachel Yucatel. Please be sure to subscribe to the show and give us a 5-star rating and review. You can support the show by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/misunderstood with Rachel Yucatel. Do you have ideas for the show or want to reach out? Email us at info_misunderstoodpodcast@gmail.com. That's spelled MISS understood. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.